Welcome to a Backyard Ultra podcast. In this episode, Red Barnett and Barry Keem came on. Red was the race director for Red's Backyard Ultra, which was held just over a week ago, and Barry was the last one standing, running for 35 yards. Here we go. Barry and Red, how you going?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, really good.
All good. Thanks for having us, mate. This should be a good chat.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So Red's Backyard Ultra was just over a week ago now. Time flies. But Red, how long had you been thinking about organising your own Backyard Ultra for?
So I can probably tell you the exact time it came about, if you don't mind the chat.
Oh, yeah.
So I was halfway through my pregnancy with my daughter, who on race day turned 2. And I wanted to do a half trail run for halfway through my pregnancy, just because. And a week before that, I had seen a video on Backyard Ultras. I'd never seen them before. So this is obviously 2.5 years ago.
Yes.
And I just thought, oh my gosh, this concept is this is nuts. This is crazy. How cool is this? So I shared it, a link to a video on our local kind of, we're not a club, it's just a Facebook group of all, people that are interested in trail running, the Seacliff Coasters. And some of those people, I'd also posted up there that I was going to go for a run. So a bunch of people joined me for my half for half. And one of the ladies who ran the last 8 kilometres with me, we started to chat about that. And I said, oh, did you see the post? And like I said, there was a bit of back and forthing. And she said, oh, how cool would that be to have something local down here? So I was like, well, why can't we? And that's kind of when the idea kind of started. It initially was only going to be something very casual, and it was only going to be, I was just going to put something on for the local, Seacliff Coasters, anybody else that wanted to join. And we'd always been we'd always done some things for Forever Projects, which is a not-for-profit. We did little tiny bits and pieces to raise funds and little events here and there, just kind of collated a bit together. But long story short, basically, Shane, who was running, who came equal third, he was hosting Laz when he came over for Mirren-Wernet a couple of years ago. And he was chatting into Laz's ear and telling him, he's like, oh, there's, this girl Red, and, she's blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, that's really cool. He goes, well, tell her if she does this and this, puts the rules in, I'll approve it as an official race. And so the pressure was kind of on. It was just like, you've got to do this. Unfortunately, the first year we had it was when it was going into COVID. The second year we had loads and loads and loads of rain, and the grounds were not conducive to it. And because part of the grounds is council, they ended up closing all parks, like for kids sports and everything like that. So that was kind of, that decision was taken away from us. So I guess, like I said, 2.5 years later, it happened. Bit surreal, but yeah, it happened.
And as far as the location goes, we're talking the Wollongong area, is that right?
That's correct. Well, it's just, if you're looking on a map, there's Wollongong, and it's just south of Wollongong. So it's kind of part of the Illawarra area in Dapto, or Kembla Grange is the little suburb. And it's on so Kembla Joggers, they're a cross-country club, and they have a clubhouse out there. And it's also a New South Wales state course that they do utilise for cross country. So it's a great little spot to hold that. You kind of, even though you're around houses and so forth, you still feel like there's a bit of an element of bush, I guess. Barry, you probably can talk to that as well. And it's not like the escarpment. I do trail run myself, and the escarpment's quite different. But it's a quite a nice little spot to have it, I thought.
Yeah, I saw a video or a couple of videos of a bloke running the course, and it looked really nice.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite nice. It's around 34 meters, elevation. It's I guess you find, and Barry can probably talk to this a little bit later on, but you find as you go along, you find the little spots, and they just kind of, there are a couple of little ups and downs, but there's no real, I don't feel there's no real kind of, there's a hill here. It's just kind of your little undulating, like little spots, but quite nice, quite nice.
Yeah, yeah. So did it take you long to find the course, or was it just like natural because it's kind of like where you run anyway?
So initially, and like I said, this was before it was going to be an official race, we were looking along, the harbour or somewhere where we could just loop somewhere. And it just switched because of where it was going, and also just stopping and thinking about, okay, if we are going to go over 12 or 24 hours, we don't really want it to be along, the Wollongong harbour path. It'd just be too much. It'd be great, it's great to have that external support or people interested in the race, but I think it would just be too much. And that was just that first thought. So it's like, KJ, they call it KJs. KJs, why don't we chat to them? And we're very lucky. We have a couple of them that one of the ladies, she's actually on the committee. She participated in the event, and they were really excited about having the event there. It was, I don't think there was really much of a decision, really. They were like, yep, come and have it here. So, which was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And Barry, from looking at your Instagram, you've been a runner for a pretty long time. I saw there's a video of you like running a race, and you might have been 13 years old.
I was probably younger than that, to be honest. Like I guess I started my running journey when I was about 8 or 9. So, I've been doing it a very long time, and I kind of fell into it as a kid. I had the decision to go to Boy Scouts or to take up sport. So for me, it was a pretty easy decision to do something that was outdoors and active, and just through, I guess, school cross country. I went well in like year 3, so it just became something that I really loved to do. And I had full support of like my family, and they got me into an athletics club quite young outside of school, and just went from there. But I think in that video you're referring to, I was probably 8 or 9.
Right.
So I was pretty young at the time.
Yeah. And are you a running coach now? Have I got that right?
Yeah, 100%. And I guess somewhat how I fell into running, I kind of fell into coaching as well. So just from it, I guess it kind of happened organically. Just I was helping out people that I was running with, and then they asked me to write programs and stuff. So I guess from there it just led into a bit more of a formal path. And then I think it was 2012 I started Team Keem, which is just as I said, it's grown really organically. I do very little advertising. I just take on people that really love the sport and want to improve, and we play a very small role in that improvement, and just provide, I guess, the foundations and support they need to get better within the sport.
Yeah. So because this was the first backyard ultra anywhere in the region, I think the closest one's probably in the ACT.
Yeah.
Barry, had you been wanting to do a backyard ultra for a while, but you were just waiting for one close enough, or?
If I'm being honest, not really.
Right.
When Reds kind of popped up on socials, and one of the ladies, Sam Hornby, who actually competed in the event, I coach, and she was very excited to be a part of it. And it wasn't that I wasn't interested initially. I just had other goals for the year, shorter goals. So I'd spent a little bit of time, probably in the last 12 to 24 months, trying my hand at the ultra game, and I hadn't nailed it yet. So I was a little bit, I'd become a little bit negative about doing too many more ultras for now. So I thought I'd spend the first part of 2023 just going back to kind of my grassroots and do a couple of road marathons, etc. And once I'd done those, I just kept seeing the social media, and I kept getting, Sam was in my ear a little bit. So I reached out to Red and the team, and they made me aware they were going to open up a few additional spots, I guess late entries, and I was very fortunate to get a late entry. And then the moment I got the late entry, I just started to get super excited by the concept and being involved, and literally in my backyard. So once I got the entry, I was very focused and very committed to the event. And now that I've done one, I think I've definitely got the bug, and I want to see where my limit is. So I'll be going around again for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Because I saw that this year on your Strava, you've been you're above 5,000 kilometers already, and you're nearly over what you did last year, or it's a total.
Yep.
So is that because why is that? Is that just because you've just been running more, or you've got different training?
I've always been a high mileage runner. I guess if I haven't had injuries or sickness or any setbacks, I've always had high volume. So I guess I haven't tracked it as well as what you've looked into. But last year I did have a couple of big events, but I did take some time off between them. So it's probably why my mileage wasn't quite as high. So I did a 24-hour earlier in the year, and then took a little bit of time off to recover from that. And then I had tried my hand at Coast to Kosciuszko later in the year, and then I think I had pretty much all of December off. So I had those probably some peaks in terms of my training volume. This year it's been really, I guess, quite consistent. And I think the 5 or 6 weeks leading into Reds, I averaged about 190 to 200K a week. So there was some decent volume there, and I guess I got nearly 300K last week or whatever it was. So that helped as well.
Yeah, because I did have a pretty good look at your Strava, and I saw you put in a training run as well of maybe 7 or 8 hours. It looked like you were practicing your nutrition and stuff like that too.
Yeah, 100%. It was a few people have asked me about this and how I guess I prepared, but because it was completely new to me and I guess quite foreign, I thought I had to, even though 8 hours probably didn't seem a lot in the grand scheme of what my goal was, I just felt like I needed to practice the stop-start, the nutrition, etc. So yeah, the most loops I did, I guess I did eight laps or 8 yards one weekend, and I always backed that up with either in most cases along a 40 or 50K the day prior to that, just to get some real fatigue in my legs, and then get used to running on fatigue legged and practice, pacing, nutrition, etc. So I was fairly confident going in that I'd be able to get through a day or two. And then beyond that, it was going to be a complete unknown. So probably plenty of learnings from the actual event moving forward, and what I'd probably do training wise as well.
Yeah. And when you did those practice loops, did it actually teach you anything? Did you think, oh gee, it's like I did these 8-hour training loops, because otherwise I would have taken this food and I would have got sick or anything like that?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me was probably the nutrition, because in previous I guess training blocks, even for races like Coast to Kosci or 24 hours, I've tried to practice eating on the run, but this time around, I took the 20 minutes to sit down and try, complete, slices of pizza and tuna and crackers and things I wouldn't normally eat. Cup of coffee straight out the door, and I had no problems with my bowel movements or anything like that. So, and actually on the day at Reds, I did have a bit of an upset stomach part of the way through the race, but I don't know if that was nutrition or what it was, but having 15 to 20 minute break every hour gives you opportunity to go to the bathroom every hour if you need to. So yeah, I think from a training perspective, it was just trying some different things out with my nutrition. That was a real benefit.
Yeah. And I think when you're running over such a long time as well in a backyard ultra, it's probably a very lucky runner who goes without any stomach issues at all or anything like that.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And Red, from the sound of things, the event sold out well before the actual race dates.
Yeah.
How many runners were actually involved?
So we ended up with, we had 55 initially, and then we opened up. It wasn't going to be a specific number. We just gave people who were on the wait list at that point in time the opportunity to take a spot. So it was whoever of those people. So we did have a good handful that didn't take that opportunity because they want to save themselves for next year. They hadn't, like some people had already been training for other things, so that was kind of easy for them to transition to the race or to the event, sorry. And we at the end of that we had 62, and then just due to injury we ended up coming back to, and one person forgetting that it was her daughter's birthday party had to pull out as well. Completely got the dates wrong. Just due to injury, we ended up back with 55. So initially, the initial number. But what I found was really, really interesting and amazing and wonderful is the ones that had pulled out due to injury who were close actually came down to the event because they wanted to support it and they wanted to see how everybody else was going. So I'd actually seen a few of them throughout that weekend, which was just so lovely to see. They had a bit of FOMO and very excited for next year. But yeah, it ended up with 55 on the line as we started. 7 females, which was wonderful.
Yeah. I do know of 1 or 2 race directors who have organised backyard ultras, and the backyard ultra that they organised is actually the first one they've ever been to. So is that the same with you? Was this the first backyard ultra you've actually ever been to?
Yeah. It's my first one.
Yeah.
And my first one ever organising an event as well, or a running event. So it was I did a lot of YouTubing, let's just say, and listening to a lot of your podcasts as well.
Right.
The person who Barry was talking to, Sam, I actually run with. So I knew she was in his ear a little bit. But yeah, she was very excited to hear that I'm on. She's like, oh my gosh, that's my favorite podcast. So,
oh, really?
Hi, Sam.
And so what was the weather like? You must have been looking at the long range forecast like leading up to the race.
I was. I think I can't remember how many weeks out it was, and I was like, I wonder if they kind of can tell you this far in advance. And I had a look, and I was very surprised that they did. I think it was like 3 weeks out or something like that, or nearly 4 weeks. And then I can't remember when it was. I looked, and a couple of people had mentioned what the weather was going to be like, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to look at it because it's going ahead. It's going to be fine. And I just thought that it's just going to be, I'm not going to add extra stress on me. And if it rains, they're just going to have to run through the rain. That's it. that was my opinion. And the weekend before, interestingly, I think in a way, might have been better that it wasn't the weekend before because it was quite hot. Quite interestingly hot. And, we still are in winter. I think for a race like this, you don't really want it too hot, like a hot, because you're just, I think it's nicer when there's a little bit of an overcast. We did have a couple little spurts of rain, unexpectedly. I think, was it loop 3, Barry? Can you recall? I think it was loop 3. Yeah. They had halfway through, and they had a bit of an unexpected kind of not heavy rain, but some rain. And then we got some a little bit later, but apart from that, it was not too bad.
Perfect. Now, what was it like at night time? What type of temperature did it get down to?
Good question. It wasn't too bad. We had jackets on. Interesting. I didn't really look at the temperature, to be completely honest. I was being pulled in a couple of different directions, but it wasn't as cold as what I was expecting it to be. We had a couple of fires, which I wasn't near at the time, and we had a kind of one of those veranda heaters, for some others, but a few of them they were saying they didn't need gloves because it wasn't that cold. It can get cold there. There are spots there where I think it was like 4 degrees and 7 degrees early in the morning. Because when I'd gone out and gone onto the track a few times, there's a couple of times during the day, just before nighttime, it kind of drops and it's really cold. And there's a spot just really early in the morning. It's strange. It just has this really cold before it kind of picks up. But it might be how close it is to the escarpment, the reasoning, that it does that. I was about to say these guys were probably quite warm anyway from all their running. So I don't know, Barry, if you noticed a difference in temperature around those times. Probably not.
I thought over the day and a half, the conditions were pretty good, to be honest. The temperature was reasonably mild. Like, it did get a little bit cold at night time, and we did get one or two kind of heavy downpours, but they were quite brief. So once you changed your shirt or changed your clothes, you were fine. So it was, compared to probably the weekend prior, throughout the day would have been really, really warm conditions to run through. So I think overall the conditions, an event that goes for a day, 2 days, you're going to get a bit of a mixture of weather. So, but overall, I thought, it was pretty good running conditions.
What type of were you consistent with your lap times, Barry? Like, what type of times were you running your loops in?
Yeah, I guess leading into the race, I had a bit of a plan or strategy to do all my loops around 40 minutes initially, and then give or take based on if I wanted a little bit of extra time for a shower or bathroom break, or but I think my first lap was 37:38. Lap one. I think my slowest lap was about 50 minutes on lap 6 or 7. I just did a bit of socializing, I guess, just chatting and whatever. So, and then throughout the night, I was probably a little bit slower, but I'd try to get a little bit of sleep, probably 1, 2 a.m. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't. Every time I got back up, I felt really quite fatigued and a little bit nauseous. So I thought, if I'm not going to get rest, I might as well just slow down my laps a little bit and spend more time just moving and keeping warm. So, but yeah, generally speaking, I was about 40 to 45, and even towards the end, like lap 33, 34, I think I was still hitting about 42, 43 minutes reasonably comfortably. So probably that 15 to 20 minute period of rest, which was quite handy.
Yeah. How intricately did you plan the race? Like, did you have like a loop by loop kind of plan, like with your nutrition and everything like that written down?
Not really. I had a crew that knew me pretty well. They're very close family, very close friends who have crewed for me in some other ultra races. So we had quite a fluid plan. They knew I was going to get back about 40 minutes every lap. And we just had a bit of a strategy that every time I came in, they'd sit me down, they'd take my shoes off, they'd give me some nutrition. And then we just kind of stuck with what was working. So sitting me down, feeding me, taking my shoes off, changing my socks. I pretty much changed my gear nearly every lap. So I put a new T-shirt on, changed my shorts, changed my undies, just so I felt fresh. And once we developed a good routine, we just kept doing it. So I guess my nutrition changed a little bit over the course of the event, because I was finding it difficult to eat too many solids. But yeah, I just trusted my crew. They know me well. They knew what I needed. And yeah, I had one piece of paper with some notes on it. That's all we had, and that's what we worked from. So yeah.
You mentioned there were showers there. Did you actually utilize the showers during the race?
I did. Yeah, that was scribbled on my piece of paper that I wanted to have a couple of showers at certain points, and one was just before dark, just to refresh and get ready for the night. So I had that about 5:30, 6 o'clock. So just on the 10 hour mark. And then I had another one at only about 5 hours later, because we got one of those really heavy downpours. And I'd actually gone out that loop in just a t-shirt, and I was really cold, like get bucketed down on the back part of the course. And I ended up running, like I had a walk-run strategy for the whole event, but I pretty much ran that whole lap because I just wanted to get back and get warm. So we went straight into the shower, and then I did plan to have more showers and more refreshing, but once again, what we were doing at the time seemed to be working, so I didn't really want to change it. So
Yeah, it sounds like the facilities there were pretty good, like with showers and stuff like that.
yeah, it's a purpose-built facility. So it's, as Red was saying before, they have state cross country, national cross country there, and it's like it's immaculate. Like there's showers, there's toilets, there's everything you need for this kind of event. And yeah, it was great to be able to utilize some of those facilities throughout the event.
Yeah, for sure. The with your run walk strategy, was that like 4-minute run, 2-minute walk, or did you pick checkpoints and choose where you're going to walk that way?
It was a 6 and 2, so 6 run, 2 walk. And initially it was like every lap I would start with a 6 run and a 2 walk. But what I was finding, the pace I was doing the loops, the last run would end up being 7, 8, 9 minutes if I didn't walk it in. So I actually flipped it probably after about 10 hours, where I walked out for 2 minutes, which throughout the event, I was having a few jokes with my crew because I was the last one leaving, and I was pretty much the first one coming back because everyone else would run off into the distance, and I would just walk out for me 2 minutes. But it seemed to work, and the only time I changed it was when I was feeling a little bit mentally fatigued. Physically, I was fine. We mixed it up a little bit where I went 3 run, 90-second walk, and I was still getting around the loop in pretty much the same time. So, but yeah, I pretty much stuck to 6 and 2 for the whole event.
Yeah, cool. And how did you come up with that 6 and 2 plan? Was that just something that you thought of yourself, or how did you?
Yeah, I guess it was a bit of trial and error just through those practice days where I did, I think one weekend I did 6 loops, and the following weekend I did 8. I just found that I could get around really comfortably running 6 minutes and 2-minute walk, and it felt really comfortable and felt really easy. And I didn't want to. I guess the idea behind it was just to make sure I wasn't loading my quads, etc., for too long, because I was prepared to be out there as long as it was needed to be the last one standing. And I thought I don't need to be the first one back every loop, but I can comfortably get around in about 40 minutes doing a 6 and 2. So I guess it was trial and error, but I did have other strategies, I guess, up my sleeve. If I was starting to fatigue, I would have went to say 6 and 3. Because it wouldn't have added too much time at all.
Yeah. So you're out there for 35 hours, which is a pretty long time. Were there any times during the race when you thought to yourself, like, why the hell did I sign up for this?
Yep. Yeah, I did. I guess where I've fallen down with ultras in the past has really been my mental strength. Like over the years, it probably has been one of my assets in terms of my road running, but I just haven't found the right balance in terms of when it does get a little bit hard to pull myself together and stay on course. So I felt physically pretty good the entire 35 hours, but I just struggled with the night. I struggled with the stop-start in the night particularly. And after from about midnight to 6 a.m., I only had one crew with me, and it was actually my 21-year-old cousin who has crewed for me before, but he's never crewed for me on his own.
Right.
And he did awesome, because I said to him a few times, I want to go home. Like I just don't want to do it. It's not that I couldn't do it, I just didn't want to do it. And he really talked me through it. He gave 5 hours to light, 4 hours to light, 3 hours to light. And then as soon as the sun came up, I felt amazing again. So, he really did. He really did keep me on course, not from necessarily a physical point of view, because I'd only been running for 14 hours. It was just from I guess that mental point of view and the support, just to say, yeah, get to light, you'll be fine. And he was right. Got to 6 a.m. and other people in my crew started to come back, and that's when I really started to become quite mentally strong again. And I said to my crew at 6 a.m., I'm pretty confident I can win this. We've just got to keep doing what we've been doing for the last 16, 17 hours. And I felt really good throughout Sunday.
Yeah. From speaking to other runners, a lot of them do tell me that they find the hardest part is actually between that 12 and 18 hour mark, because you're running for 12 hours. It's a pretty long time. And you think to yourself, I've still got to run that again just to get to 24.
Yeah.
So it can really play with your mind. But if you, because you were aware that the mental side of ultra running is where you can fall over, let's say, what kind of techniques have you developed over the years to improve in that area?
Look, I think it's still very much a work in progress, but I think I've actually taken a lot of, apart from winning the event on the weekend, I've taken more away from it in terms of where I think I can take my ultra running in the future. So I guess it's more about that belief that, yeah, there will be tough patches, but they're only a moment in time. They'll be, you'll get out the other side pretty quickly. The thing I struggled with over Reds was not knowing when it was going to be over. And I really think that played with my mind more so between that 12 and 6 a.m. I was like, there's still plenty of guys and girls left. This is not finishing anytime soon. And just to get through kind of like that dead time or that dead space. So, and it's the same in all ultra, if you run in Coast to Kosciuszko, the race doesn't start till you get to 180 or 200K. So there's a lot of time to get through that. Physically you can, but it's mentally that has been, for me, quite challenging. So I think getting through that bad patch on the weekend will really benefit me moving forward. But in terms of specific strategies, it's just probably just turning up and going again and seeing if I can be a bit more resilient than I have been in the past.
Yeah. I'm tipping that 35 hours is probably the longest you've run, but was the distance you covered, was that the furthest you've run in a race as well?
Yeah, so I did last year I ran the 24 hour in Canberra, and I ran 202K that day. But I really, once again, I think I walked the last 8 or so hours. It was just horrible. It was it was a really horrible experience in Canberra where you're walking for the last period of time. But
yeah,
so definitely the longest time out there and the furthest distance as well.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Red, what kind of numbers did we have at the 24-hour and 30-hour milestone marks? Do you have that?
Yeah, so at the 24-hour, I was looking at the top 12 and top 5 people. So we had the top 12 at loop 20.
Oh, yeah.
And then it went to the top 5 at 24. So they all had a bit of a joke when everybody I wanted to be there around the 100K mark. And then I was going to try and go off and get a little bit of a nap. Yeah. But I wanted to be there when they all came in, and we gave them all a little coaster, for a DNF coaster for each person. And there was a little joke because as soon as I went off and went to bed, everybody started dropping off, and they were saying, "Red's gone, we can stop now." So yeah, it was. So yeah, the top. Yeah, loop 24 was 5. We had 5 actually. Yeah, so we had 12 at 20, and loop 20 and 5 at 24.
Yeah. I was going to say, did you stay there the whole 35 hours and not sleep as well, or did you?
Well, I had my 2-year-old daughter there, and she still feeds. So she ended up staying. So in the clubhouse, on one side is kind of like a where they hold their conferences and stuff like that. So that was out of bounds anyway to runners, because on the other side they have a canteen facility as well. So they had the canteen, the showers, the toilets. They had all that part of the clubhouse to utilize. So that was like 20 meters from the event hub area. It was quite quiet. You couldn't really hear a lot, but it was kind of difficult to switch off and try and sleep because I didn't want to, or like I wanted to be there for when everyone finished. So when I had gone to bed, I had shown them what to do in reference to, we were just videoing every time a loop started, and a video of just watching them go out. So I was kind of laying in there waiting for it. We kept refreshing to see how many people was that next loop. I was supposed to be trying to sleep, and then I could see them all stopping at the loop checking tent, and I'm like, and I know, like, because I know a lot of them, like, oh my gosh, you're pulling out. I'm like, no, put your phone down. And it did take me a little bit to wind down. I probably had a couple of hours sleep. I got up at 5, and I came back out, after that, and took back over again. But so it was, I tried and I did get a little bit, but it's it's hard when it's like your first one and you want to be there for the whole thing. But you do need rest. You need rest.
Yeah. Sure. The assist, I think his name was Peter Richardson.
Yes.
From his result, he's a pretty good runner. He's had some good results, and this was his first backyard ultra as well. So do you know what the story was behind him finishing at 30?
Yeah, so I think he could have kept going. He had that, and it comes back to that, like when Barry was having a chat about, that mental side of things, and I chatted to a couple of different runners, and I guess it's reaffirming or revisiting that why, like, why are you out there? And when times gets tough, I think that why needs to be more of a driver than the reason to stop. And he ultimately, I mean, his whole family was there. He has 2 little, they have little kids there. And in the end, he just wanted to take his family home. And, that drive to take his family home was greater than, to get out there. I think he has, I honestly think he has a lot of potential to be out there. He just, similar to Barry was very consistent throughout his loops. I started tracking times with the top 5 just because it was all manual. It's too hard to do with everybody. So we just did the top 5 and we started tracking those. And Barry, all of them really were quite consistent in their timing. But he just had this nice little shuffle about him, or not shuffle, his run, and he just was it was just on repeat. So I'd be very, very interested to see how he goes again, because I do believe he has a lot more to give, I think.
And did he just decide not to start the 35th loop, or did he turn back? Or
he turned back. So he started. Then poor Barry had the dark looping it by himself. He'd started, and I actually wasn't expecting to pull back. He had started, and he kind of ran out to the first part, and then kind of turned around and come back again. So yeah.
Did you know that, Barry, or did you finish that whole loop and not actually?
We went off. We went off the loop together, and I don't know, it wasn't far, and it might have been 100 meters or so.
Yeah.
I think I just said to him something like, "Oh, how'd you find the last lap, Pete?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, pretty good." And I thought, okay, off we go again. And then he just stopped and just said, "Oh, I'm done. No, that's I'm it." And we said our congratulations, etc. And then I thought, I better get going. So I started to run around the loop, and then my partner phoned me because I had my phone. She phoned me to make sure I was aware that I was basically the last one standing, and just to, make sure I got round in one piece. So I wish he would have done it a lap earlier so I could do the last one in the light, but because it was an interesting experience going around the last loop on your own in the dark. But I felt like I had quite a bit more in me, but I felt like, similar to what Red was saying, I think Pete definitely has had more in him on the day, and in the future he has a lot more in him as well. So if we all head back in 2024, I think the winning distance will be substantially greater than it was in the inaugural year, which is exciting. So
you kind of alluded, Barry, that you were willing to just run till you were the last one standing. So you didn't actually have a target set in mind or a goal or anything like that?
Nah, I didn't have a loop. I didn't have a loop target at all. I did. I wasn't. I thought I could go a fair way, like in terms of hours and loops, but the only goal, I guess, me and my crew had was just to be, and it was a bit of a, I don't know, mantra or what you call it, but it was to be the last one to go home. So that was the only real goal we had, and just to, when it got tough, just to make sure you kept turning up and getting around the loop. So I was prepared to go through the second night if I had to, preferably not the first one round. I was quite happy with about the 35 hours, to be honest. But in terms of, did I have a goal of 30 hours, 40 hours, 50 hours? Nah, not this time. Next time, definitely. But first one, I was just happy to be the last one standing. Yep.
And I think it's also because we only had kind of like a handful of people that have actually done a backyard ultra before, so there was so much unknown as well. Like with a lot of these, there's some people that have done big events, like long events, but obviously the format's very different. But there was far more that had not done a backyard ultra before than there was. Like I said, there's probably a handful that has actually done a couple.
Yeah.
So how far do you reckon you could go, Barry?
Look, I don't know. To be like, I know at no stage did I feel like I had to slow down. So I hadn't gone to an alternate strategy. So I just think that the challenge for me would have been getting through the second night, not necessarily from the physical perspective. It would have been from I guess my mindset. But I was, once it got down to a handful, like once it got down to 5, like that was when I thought, okay, let's race on. It's game on now. So there was no way I was going home at that point. And then when I got down to 2, it was the same. I just had the same mindset that, you've got through to this stage. It's, we're sticking this out to be the last one. But in terms of how far, look, I think, I next time around, I definitely want to go well in excess of 60 hours, probably something like that, to just got to decide which one to do next year now. That's all.
Yeah. And next year, I guess, will Reds be back bigger and better, even better next year, Red?
Well, I hope so. I was really, really pleased with how it went, to the point that I was kind of just, a couple of days later, did that actually really happen? Because nothing, I should touch wood for next year, nothing went wrong realistically. It just seemed to go really smoothly, and it was awesome. It was such an amazing weekend. So there are a couple of little things, but probably that were just extras that I would have liked to have had on the weekend, but timing and different things. So they're not things that are needed. They were just like a nice little thing for the runners, I guess, which we'll see next year. I won't disclose what they were, but they're just, nothing that added or or took away from the event this year. Am looking at, yes, opening to more numbers next year. That number will be kind of decided. I always felt I didn't want to have any more than 100 at the event. I'm not saying we're doing that this year. I'm genuinely a person that's very interested in each of the runners, and I like to kind of get to know them and their goals. And I really wanted the event to feel like you were physically coming to my backyard, and a little bit of a community and a family feel around that. So I want to make sure there's a good balance of, yes, it growing. I think it's fantastic that there's getting, we had people from Canberra, we had people from the Central Coast, we had someone from 7.5 hours away. So that's amazing that there is, it's spreading and people are hearing about it. But I also want to be able to make sure that I can also have that personal touch as well. So there's that kind of balance. But yeah, definitely aiming to be there next year and bigger and better, I hope.
Yeah, well, I really liked how you profiled every single runner before the race, and you also celebrated each and every runner after the race as well, each with their photo in the frame thing as well. That was really good.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I think that just talks to how, I'm genuinely, I was so excited for each person. Some people may not have got a distance PB, but I was talking to someone, they didn't get a distance, and then I chatted to them a little bit about that, and they shifted a bit because, that's the fastest I've ever done that distance. And I'm like, that's amazing to, you got to look at it, those different ways. And I don't know, I enjoy that kind of just talks to who I am. I just really enjoy getting to know them and celebrating their journey and their achievements. It's amazing. I mean, whether you ran 7 hours, that's 7 hours still, or 35 or 40. It's an amazing achievement. It's a very different format. And, even if you've met or you've equaled a PB, to me, I think this is a little bit harder because, if you're doing, say, 100K, you have a time period to complete that in. And, you can stop and have a half-hour little nap at an aid station or something like that. You don't have the luxury of this here. We had a few people that only just made it in, and we're like, quick, give him something, out, you got to go out again type of thing. So that was kind of exciting. I like those loops. They may not have, but it was really cool to see how, everybody gets behind each person. And I just wanted everybody to celebrate that with them. So, yeah.
And will you be adding any other backyard ultras to your race directing, or just leaving it at that?
I've kind of got the bug. I've enjoyed it, and I actually have had a couple of ideas of different things, but I would like to potentially there's a potential maybe to there's a thought to maybe have another one, but not in the same area. But I just love, I can see how people get the bug, and it's really funny because you get it from the RD side of things. It's not a no. It's not a no.
Yeah, cool. So I always think it's exciting when like a highly credentialed ultra runner or runner does their backyard ultra for the first time, and Barry's a good example of that. I mean, you've represented Australia in 100Ks, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you've got awesome results with like timed track ultras too. But now you've started your backyard ultra journey. Like, have you thought about where you want to take it?
Yeah, yes and no. I guess in the past, I've probably made some really rash decisions too close to races about what I want to do and where I want to go next. So I've kind of, the last 7 days, I've just enjoyed, like, in my mind, not being a runner for 7 days. I had a week off.
Yeah.
I finished off all my backyard snacks. So I just didn't. Mine
is still going.
I tried not to think about it, to be honest about it, but I definitely want to go again. And there's a few options, I guess, with Miriam
Wernett. Yeah.
Possibly Dead Cow, but I said the other night we had a bit of a post-race dinner and drinks and celebration, and I'm more than tempted to go back to Reds next year, because it was just, on the back of the event this year, like, it was really, really well put together from before the event to after the event. Like, it had a really, really good feel about it. The Wollongong running community really got behind it, which was awesome. And as I said, it was in my backyard. It was 15 minutes from home. My crew could, pop in, pop out. There's an appeal to go back again and go further. And, whether I was fortunate enough to win again next year, I'd really want to see the distance go out significantly. And if that means me being the assist next year, well, then that would be awesome too. So I love local events, and, the event this year was awesome. So, possibly Reds again next year, I think.
Yeah, cool. How has the body pulled up? No injuries or anything like that?
Yeah, pretty good. The only thing I had a few blisters throughout the event, and I got them quite early, which I think was more a footwear choice. I actually went with some fairly new shoes, which was probably a rookie error. So as soon as I started to feel those blisters, I quickly I had about 20 pairs of shoes in my boot. So we changed the shoes pretty quickly. And I had a little bit of pain behind my right knee, I guess, like kind of like bottom of the hamstring, top of the calf, for most of the event. So I did my first, I did 5K this morning, 5K tonight, and I got a little bit of awareness of that. But yeah, no injuries. It's just a bit of awareness at the moment. I've got some treatment tomorrow morning, so I'm sure I'll be back on top of that, and then start to build the mileage sensibly, but pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah. Do you have any other races planned this year? Any type of races?
Yeah. So I've applied to run Coast to Cozzy again.
Yep.
So I think we find out in 2 weeks' time. So unfortunately, our DNFs last year at about 160K. I think I was rather aggressive in my race plan, and it wasn't. It was going well initially, but back to that, wasn't tough enough on the day, so I pulled out at 160. So threw my hand up again. I think hopefully my result on the weekend should strengthen my application, because it's a great event. It's not easy to get into, especially a second time round after a DNF, but fingers crossed I get to go again. But yeah, if that's I should find that out in the next week or two, and if I do, that will be, it'll be all roads lead to top of Australia.
Yeah, that's an epic race. I would love to do that one day. It's awesome. I love how it starts on the beach and ends at the top of Mount Kosciuszko.
Yeah, heaps of people I spoke to about the event, it's like really difficult to get it right first go. I probably should have been a little bit more sensible last year, but lessons learned, and hopefully I get another opportunity, because it's a really great event, and it's one still on my bucket list to nail. So hopefully this year.
When I was looking at your previous results as well, Barry, I saw that in 2015 you ran in a 6-hour track race at Coburg, and it's one of the most stacked races I've ever seen. There was Dion Fianaccio was in it, Kay Brett, Matthew Eckford, Nicky Wind, Robert Mason, who won Coast to Cozzy last year.
Yep.
Francesco Ciancio, Dara O'Loughlin, who's a 24-hour gun,
Yep.
Simon Austin, Ken Marsh, Peter Munns, and others. Like, do you remember that race? And you came third in it too.
Yeah, so I did. I went down to Coburg because that was my first 100K on the track.
Right.
So it was a 6-hour race, but they gave us opportunity to carry on to 100K. So I actually, for me, the 6-hour mark was fairly insignificant. It was more me running on to 100K to get my qualifier for World Champs. So off memory, some of those boys like Dion and maybe Francesco only ran to 6 hours.
Yeah.
Which at the time I found really strange because they ran like 80-something K. I'm like,
Yeah.
you just keep going. But it was a very I was very new to that distance. But yeah, looking back on, you look at where Dion's taken the 100K to now, it was a pretty stacked field.
Yeah. Are you going to keep on doing like time track ultras and stuff like that, or see how it goes?
Look, not at this stage. I think I'm at the point in my career where I'm just looking for new opportunities. So I come from a road running background. Like in my early 20s, half marathons and marathons were my specialty, I guess. And then I got to a point where I thought I wasn't going to get any faster. So to keep me really interested and invested in the sport, I just looked for different opportunities, and I went to things like 6-foot track and then up to 50K and 100K, and I'm not getting faster over a marathon. So let's go longer and slower.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks both of you for coming on. It looked like it was an epic event and a really strong winning performance as well.
Yeah. Well, no, thanks for having us on. We hope to, as Barry said, he would love to see the numbers go. There's quite a few people that are like, well, okay, let's see how far we can push this number next year. So I think next year is going to be really exciting, really, really exciting.
Yeah.
As Barry mentioned, we had we organised a dinner, a post-race dinner for everyone just to catch up casually. And I had like a lot of them. Do we have to wait 12 months? So I know there's a lot of interest to come back and give it a really good, a lot of them are also stepped away in, on that weekend, I had some people saying, I've just now put my plan down. I know what to do with nutrition, and someone else is about something else. And so, straight after finishing they're thinking about that. So that's really cool to hear that they're already kind of like, thinking about how they can improve next year and push the number out next year. So should be good.
Yeah, and I saw that there's a backyard ultra in northern Sydney, Bricks Backyard Ultra. So maybe some extra keen people sign up for that as well because they love Reds so much.
There was a bit of chat about that on Saturday night after a few beers about, let's go do that. Bit too close, I think.
Yeah, the 30th of September, I think.
Yeah. So that's at the end of next month. So yeah, sounds about right. That'll be interesting to see what comes of that.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the St. Ives area, like where it's going to be?
No, I was looking at the map and was trying because a couple of people had said it looked a bit confusing, but I'm sure at the time it'll, make sense. Just because the map, you can't just looking at it at face value straight away was just because it kind of goes in and out and up and about. It is a beautiful area up there because, northern Sydney is really lovely. So it looks like it's going to be a really nice course. It has that, the bush kind of feel, I guess, as well, similar feel. So, it'll be really cool to watch along, really good to watch along.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks again, both of you, for coming on.
Thanks for having us, mate. It's a good chat. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Well, all the best with the next event that you do, Reds. Be it Reds or another event, but yeah, it'll be awesome, I'm sure. And all the best with getting into Coast and Cosy. I'll be following along, Barry. If you don't, I'll be following along whatever you do as well.
Sounds good. Thanks, mate. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Have a good one.
See you guys. Bye.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, it would be awesome if you could share, comment, like, subscribe, all of that. If you've got any feedback, shoot me a message. Hope you have a great day. See ya.